So I've got the perfect recipe for a Sunday roast. It's getting a little bit colder now, so I've been thinking about the cinnamons, the star anise, all of these beautiful spices that just remind me of a nice mulled wine. So today I'm doing a roast pork, but using those kind of flavors. First up, we've got some oranges. I'm just gonna quickly slice them up, get rid of the ends. So these are gonna go at the bottom of your tray. They're gonna get really well caramelized. They're gonna get even a little bit burnt, but that's okay because that just adds more flavor to the pork. I'm cutting them into slices just because it's the easiest way to do so. They sit at the bottom of the pan really well. They just keep the piece of pork off the bottom, but they still give it that flavor. So that just goes straight into my pan. If you didn't have oranges at home, you can use other citrus fruit, but you're kind of after something a little bit more sweet. So even if we went to clementines or grapefruits, I wouldn't go towards the limes and your lemons. So the rest of the orange slices go in. This recipe is basically kind of like making a marmalade. You know how you keep a little bit of that rind on when you're making a marmalade and you let it break down and it becomes really gooey and really delicious? The same thing's gonna happen here, except it's in a pan and it's just gonna flavor that pork. We've got some garlic, just gonna crush these guys. By crush, I mean just the knife, and bang. That goes straight into the pan as well. Then we've got some ginger. So we're just gonna quickly slice the ginger into battens. I think the flavor of ginger, orange, cinnamon, star anise, it just reminds me of being warm, being like really happy and all cuddled up. So this is making me so keen to have this dish. Straight into the pan as well. We've got the cinnamon, just quick break, straight in. Star anise goes right in. Then the fun part, the pork. I've got a pork neck here. It's not as fatty as other cuts of pork. It's kind of like the Scotch fillet of pork itself. It's really lovely, so I just love roasting this, and it's really simple. The pork's going straight into the pan. I'm just gonna have some salt over this guy, just a little bit. Give it a nice rub, cover him all up. You don't wanna do this too early before you start the cooking process because it'll start to draw the moisture out of the pork and it could become really dry. So just a quick salt just before you pop it into the oven would be perfect. I'm just gonna cover the pork with a little bit of this guy. This is treacle. It's basically the same as molasses. Different places call it different things and the color can change as well. Something really golden to something really, really dark. The treacle provides the sweet element to this dish. It's also a little kind of herbal, which I'm gonna love in the winter months. You notice that I actually didn't cover the bottom. That's because once this starts to heat up in the oven, it'll run down there anyway and it'll start to caramelize at the bottom. So you just don't have to worry too much about that. We're gonna lay just a couple of these oranges there, a little bit of star anise just back on top. So that's all done. It's gonna go into the oven at 140 for about 2 hours, but we will be checking on it every half an hour so that we can baste it as well. So I've been basting my pork. We've got about 15 minutes left for it to cook. So while that's happening, I'm gonna start prepping my vegetables, which is just the bok choy, because I think that's gonna go really lovely with this dish. I'm just gonna halve them straight down the middle into a little bowl. I'm gonna coat them with a little bit of sesame oil after I've halved them. And then they go into the same pan as the pork to actually just kind of cook and get really soft and delicious in the oven. That's smelling so beautiful. I love the toasty scent that comes out of sesame oil. It's gonna go really, really well with that beautiful molassesy kind of pork with the orange. So that's looking really well coated now. We're just gonna pop this right into the tray. So I'm just gonna go and grab that. As you can see, the pork is looking so beautiful. I'm just gonna give it another quick base with this gooey, sticky, molassesy sauce that's left over at the bottom. So you can see that the oranges have really caramelized. They're really delicious and all broken down basically now. So I'm just gonna push this to the side and then in goes the bok choy. Just gonna pop it back into the oven for another 10 minutes so that the bok choy cooks, and then we can bring it out, rest the meat, carve and serve. So the pork's really well rested now. It's time to carve. I'm just gonna quickly get rid of the string that was used to hold it together. It's just like at home, first slice is definitely for me. So you get this beautiful sweetness that comes from the treacle and like a nice caramelization in it. So It's just gone far enough. Then you get little hints of orange, nothing too crazy, and a little bit of that ginger that comes through, and a tiny bit of star anise. It's heaven. Just gonna finish slicing them up. Gorgeous, that's looking beautiful. That's gonna go straight back in. I would just serve it like this, just bring it to the table as is. Sprinkling of the sesame seeds just over the beautiful bok choy. So you would serve it with the jasmine rice just as is, straight to the table, and that right there is my sweet and sticky roast pork.